Hi, Mr. Wright here, and welcome to this film in which I'll take you through my take on how you should go about finding the best tutor, the perfect tutor perhaps, for your son or daughter. But before we launch in, please, if you are starting to find a tutor for your son or daughter, please spend a little bit of time on this because it's really important that you get it right. Primarily because we're all human, and once you've found a tutor for your son or daughter, you will probably stick with that tutor week in, week out from now until your son or daughter take their exams. So it really is worth doing a bit of groundwork and spending a small amount of time thinking about how you're going to approach this. So, hence this film. I've been meaning to make it for a while, and I hope you find it useful. And during this film, I'll take you through what you might look for in a tutor, how would you know which one to choose, and also what should you be asking tutors when you meet them in order to help you suss out whether or not they are the perfect fit for what you're looking for, and indeed for your son or daughter. Now, before we launch in, let's just take a moment to consider why tutoring matters. Now, absolutely, tutoring cannot replace the provision your son or daughter are receiving at school. So it's important to be realistic about that. But a tutor can provide an awful lot to your son or daughter. And I have seen tutoring being mega impactful in some instances, and to be honest, being not terribly impactful in other instances. Now, what can a tutor do? Well, a tutor can do an awful lot for your son or daughter's what do I want to say, sort of mental well-being, confidence, feeling about their maths. There is nothing like reassurance and confidence building, and that can have a huge effect on your son or daughter's approach to all sorts of things, and of course, a huge impact on their maths results too. Now, a tutor, because they're working alongside your son or daughter, and some tutors are very good at working alongside their pupils, and others perhaps are more dictatorial and more old-fashioned. You must find your style that works for your son or daughter. But when a tutor works alongside your son or daughter successfully, they will spot gaps and they will be able to focus their time and your son or daughter's time on what really matters. And they will be able to help your son or daughter find the exam strategies that work for them. Because yes, there are many strategies one can use when tackling maths questions or when tackling exams as a whole, but it's all about what's going to work for your son or daughter. And there is no replacement really for support for your son or daughter, either one-to-one or in a very small group setting. And having worked in schools as well, and I currently work in a school, of course, I know that there is an awful lot one can provide in a classroom setup, but there are limits to what one can provide in a classroom setup. And small group tutoring or one-to-one tutoring, by its nature, enables your son or daughter to receive very much more personalized support. Right, let's have a look at what you might look for in a tutor and what you might ask a tutor when you meet them for the first time. So, what should you look for in a tutor? Well, for me, there are several number ones, but one of my number ones is a knowledge and in-depth experience and expertise of the exam board for which your son or daughter is preparing. For example, I tutor for Edexcel IGCSE Maths, and that's what I teach in school as well. And because I work day in, day out with pupils preparing for their Edexcel IGCSE Maths, I am aware of all the intricacies of the syllabus. I'm aware of all the intricacies of the exams. I know exactly how the exam works. I know exactly how questions are asked in the exam. I know exactly what the examiners of that exam board are looking for. I understand the grade boundaries. I understand what sort of mark is required for each particular grade. And I understand if one's going for a grade 7, for example, which topics are important to concentrate on, to focus on, and which topics will make the difference between a grade 6 and a grade 7, or a grade 7 or a grade 8. So I have a very ready and comprehensive understanding of that particular exam board. And it makes a great deal of difference to what I am able to do for my pupils. So I would say that the first thing to look for is knowledge, genuine experience, and genuine expertise in preparing pupils for the exam board that your son or daughter is going to be sitting. I also think it's important to be a current classroom teacher, or at least a very recent classroom teacher, because as a classroom teacher, one works day in, day out with students of differing abilities and of differing learning styles and differing approaches, and one becomes very used to and adept at explaining the same concept in several different ways, and one becomes very adept at working alongside children with different learning styles, children with different interests, and children who need all sorts of different approaches to pique their interest, to get them going, to improve their confidence, and to make them feel good about their maths. So I think that there is no replacement for current classroom practice, current classroom teaching, or at least very recent classroom teaching. I would also want to know that the tutor is going to be structured in their approach. Now, if the tutor is used to and has very ready knowledge and expertise of the exam board in question, it's going to be very difficult for them not to be structured, because they will know exactly which topics are key, and they will, with luck, ask for details of the syllabus that your child is covering at school, so they'll know what to supplement and where to extend. And they will have a very ready idea of how to take a structured approach with your son or daughter as they prepare for their exams. I'd also look for a personal fit as well. Is this somebody whom you can have faith and trust in as a parent? Do you find them convincing? Do you find them credible? Do you think they're going to be straightforward and honest with you? And do you think that they are the sort of person you would like to have working alongside your son or daughter? I would say that your trust and your gut instinct about the person in front of you is also pretty important. Now, what would I be asking a prospective tutor when I met with them? Well, I would be asking about their experience and expertise in the specific exam board which my son or daughter was to sit. I would be asking them about how they structure sessions. That will give you a flavour for whether or not the sessions will be formal, informal, whether or not this tutor is somebody who sits alongside your child or works in a more traditional fashion. And you'll have your preference and your child will have their preference. There aren't any rights or wrongs. It's about getting a feel for how that tutor works and how they will interact and gel with your child, and how they will provide what your child needs. How do they track progress? Have they helped students who are working at a similar level to your own son or daughter? Can they talk you through examples of pupils they've worked with, how they've helped, and what the outcome has been for that pupil? How readily accessible will they be outside of regular lesson times to your son or daughter? Perhaps that's important to you, perhaps it's not. Perhaps the tutor who you're meeting will have a very fixed schedule and very limited availability, and will be able to give their all to your son or daughter during the lesson times, but nothing in between. And perhaps that's what you're looking for. Or perhaps the tutor will be able to provide support in between lessons. For myself, I take on only a few number of pupils, and whilst we have regular lesson times, of course, I'm also available to each of my pupils in between lessons on WhatsApp. I have a group with the pupil and their parents and myself on it, and I like to think that that's really useful to pupils. They find it useful. They can snap a picture of a question they're working on for their homework and send it to me, and I can help them out with that, and they therefore feel supported in between sessions as they prepare for their exams. But I'm able to provide that, and I think it's important. Other people aren't able to provide it, or perhaps it's not important in the context of what they're providing. But you'll want to know, what help is there available for my son or daughter in between sessions? Perhaps you might ask how it is that the tutor goes about building confidence in their pupils, if that's important to you. Can the tutor provide you with testimonials, with reviews from previous parents? All of these questions might feel slightly awkward to ask, I don't know, but they're all very important questions to ask, and I'm quite sure that any tutor you meet who is worth their salt will be extremely happy to talk you through their methodology, their experience, and will be very happy to share reviews from past parents and past pupils with you. They may even be happy to put you in touch with a past pupil or a past parent if you want to have a conversation with them. Now, that's what I'd be looking for in a tutor. That's what I'd be asking a tutor. But here come some red flags, or at least these are red flags in my opinion. So, red flags. Well, if I were looking for a tutor for my son or daughter, for me, these would be red flags. Fairly clearly, not being experienced and not having an up to date knowledge with the exam board in question. That, for me, would be a red flag. Some tutors and some parents and pupils simply want somebody to appear once a week on Zoom and to help their child with their homework or to help their child with whatever it is that they're working on at school. For me, that's not enough. So for me, that would be a red flag. For others, perhaps it's absolutely fine. But I would be looking for a tutor who, yes, would be able to put some time aside in the lesson to respond to anything that people wanted to ask about the work they're doing at school or work they're doing outside of the tutoring lessons. For me, of course, that often happens on WhatsApp or on short Zooms in between our main lessons, but tutors work in different ways. I would want a tutor to be able to respond to and support my son or daughter with what it was they were currently doing at school, but I'd also expect a plan to run alongside what they're doing in school, a plan which the tutor has produced, personalized to what my son or daughter needs, which will help them hit their target grade and will help them do better than they would have done without the tutoring. So for me, a tutor who simply supplements what's going on at school, for me, that's a red flag. I would also, for me, would be a red flag, would be somebody, if I met somebody and I thought, do you know, if I ring up this person outside of class, if I ring up my son or daughter's tutor, will they be straightforward with me? Will they be honest with me? Will I trust what they say? Don't shy away, please, parents, from acting on that gut instinct. There are lots of tutors out there. You do not have to employ the first one you meet, whilst folk may say, gosh, it's very busy, I'm very booked up, you need to commit now. Well, perhaps that's a red flag. But I would take your time and find the tutor who you feel you can trust and who you would like to see working alongside your son or daughter. So there you have it. That is how I would go about starting to find the ideal or the perfect tutor to work alongside my son or daughter. And parents, I hope you found this film useful. Now, it may be that you're interested in talking to me about tutoring for your son or daughter. And the truth of the matter is, I have no idea when you're watching this film, so I have no idea of what my current availability will be when you're watching the film. So I will put some details in the description of this film as regards my current availability, if that's something that you might be interested in looking into. However, I will also put my contact details in the description of this film, and I'm extremely happy to spend some time with you if you would simply like to talk about tutoring options for your son or daughter, or indeed thoughts and concerns you may have for a son and daughter, or tips you may be after as they are preparing for their Edexcel IGCSE maths. If you want to get together and simply have a chat about where your son or daughter is with their maths and how you might best support them, I would be very happy to spend some time with you on that too. So I'm happy to help. So please do get in touch if you'd like to. The details or my contact details are in the description of this film. And if you've had an experience of tutoring, folk who are watching this film, and you'd like to add to my suggestions, or you'd like to share your experience with the YouTube community, please do leave me a comment. Tell me about your experience of tutoring. What was important for you when looking for a tutor or working with a tutor? What have I missed out of this film? Or perhaps what do you disagree with or agree with in my suggestions? Right, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. See you in the next film.